Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece Arabasta Saga, Drum Island Arc, Episode 80, A Doctorless Island, Adventure in the Country Without a Name. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in this episode. So the group arrive on Drum Island, where again, the cliffhanger from the last episode was Vivi being implied to have been shot. Turns out it just grazed her arm, and Luffy is about to attack because obviously someone he cares about has just been attacked. But Vivi instead bows her head and forces Luffy to do the same, even saying that he's not a good captain if he's going to act so recklessly because he has to think about Nami in this situation. So he then bows his head too. Ultimately, Dalton decides to trust them and let them in, and they then return to the village, meeting a hiking bear along the way. Once at the village, Dalton lets them stay with him, and they learn that there's going to be an election to choose the new leader and that Dalton's name is in the front running. Dalton then tells them a bit more about the kingdom, how, a few weeks ago, 5 pirates led by Blackbeard, that's foreshadowing, um, came to Drum Island and basically destroyed it, but the people consider it a mixed bag because on the one hand the country was attacked, on the other hand the very terrible monarch Wapol was dethroned because he fled, and that's why they're able to get a new leader, and he was a terrible leader. And unfortunately they only have one doctor on the entire island. They used to be known for their advanced medicine and have a ton of doctors, but due to the poor management of the previous king, now there is only one left, Dr. Kuroha, who they claim to be a witch. And that is where he says, like, that she's the only one who can cure Nami, and she lives on top of one of the island's mountains, which look like giant drums, hence why it was previously called Drum Island, though they're going to change the name when they change the leader. And they can't summon the witch. She comes down when she wants to. So, because of how high Nami's fever is, Luffy decides he's going to carry her up the mountain himself, and Sanji goes alongside to make sure that nothing bad happens. They're told to go through to go up the other side of the mountain from what they can see because there's Lapins on the mountain, but they decide the fastest route is the best route. And so Luffy and Sanji set off towards the mountain, and as they're going through the forest, a little baby Lapin starts trying to attack them while they're exchanging myths about people that live on cold climates. For example, Luffy heard in a pub that people in cold climates can't go to sleep because they'll never wake up, and Sanji heard that women from cold climates have smooth and pale skin, pale because the snow dyes it, and smooth because they have to rub their arms for warmth, and that smooths the skin out over time, like if you were sanding something with sandpaper. Um, but basically, they eventually get annoyed by this rabbit, so they kick it. And of course, at the end of the episode, we see them coming up against an entire. What is a group of bunnies called? So, according to the internet, they could be called a colony, or what they consider the most commonly and charmingly referred to as a fluffle, which I think is absolutely adorable, so I'm going to call them a fluffle of Lapins. Either way, they come across this fluffle and are about to be attacked because they hit the babies. And at first they argue about whether they're gorillas or polar bears, but ultimately Sanji puts an end to the joke by confirming that they are Lapins, which what they were warned about by Dalton on their way up, and I think they underestimated it when they heard rabbit. I think they thought small, but these are giants and carnivorous. And then we have like a couple other small scenes that aren't really part of the episode's main storyline, but just kind of thrown in. Zoro was left at the ship. He has decided now that his legs have healed from Little Garden, we can see like there's some scarring like stitches, but it looks like, it's no longer like it's like more of an old wound now. He's decided he can do some more training, and since he's in the cold and on a frozen river, a polar plunge is the best thing he can think of to do. And so he starts getting ready for that. And then we have Wapple at the end of the episode spying through his spyglass, Drum Island, which of course shows that he is going to be heading to the island and arriving there soon as well. But that's everything that happened in this episode. At least the main points. There was a lot of exposition. So now that we've been reminded what happened in the episode, it's time to rank the episode first on our mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking list. So, to start with, we have our multi-arc main character development. As promised in the last episode, if it was confirmed that Vivi was genuinely shot, she was going to be getting the points in this episode because the last one only implied it, did not show it. This one does show she was grazed on the arm, it was bleeding, therefore she gets the points, 4 points to be exact, and that's our multi-arc main character development. And then we have the world building pieces, which is that exposition on the entire history of Drum Island, recent events on Drum Island, Blackbeard and his 5-person crew attacking Drum Island, and the creatures that are native to Drum Island, which are the hiking bears, the Lapins, even information about Wapple's former reign and leaving and everything like that. And I'm just bulking all of that together because it was a big bunch of exposition into world building, worth another 4 points. And that gives this episode 8 out of 10 for the points. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode first. Oh my gosh. That's just muscle memory there. No, our mostly objective arc ranking, now that we know that this is an 8 out of 10, has Nami is sick beyond the snow that falls on the ocean, Ambush, The Blicking, and Wobble the Bilk. And then this episode comes in third place, A Doctorless Island, Adventure in the Country Without a Name. Next, we have my personal ranking for this episode. There was a lot of exposition, which unfortunately, while what they were saying was important, and especially if it was your first time watching, it would be information you'd probably want to know. When you are rewatching for the, well, umpteenth time, it's also very boring because it's like I already know this and I'm just sitting here and listening to you talk and I already know what you're saying, so it's just kind of an opportunity to get distracted and do something else, which I don't like to do because I'm needing to concentrate to make these videos, but it can lead to a little bit less of entertainment value. However, there were comedic moments interspersed in there. There was, of course, basically everything to do with the Lapins and the hiking bears, well, where obviously the hiking bears, unlike the Lapins, are not dangerous, but you got to be polite and bow to them as you pass because that's just good hiking manners. Usopp chose to play dead when he first came across him. Then in the village, there is a woman who looks very much like a hiking bear, and both Usopp and Luffy bow to her. Then, of course, there's the little baby Lapin trying to get in the way of Sanji and Luffy, and then eventually getting kicked by Luffy, or not Luffy, Sanji, before then that leading to their way being blocked by all of the adults, and then that whole comedy over whether or not they are polar bears or gorillas or rabbits, and ultimately deciding, of course, that they are the Lapins, because that is what they are. There's also the fact that Luffy is running through the snow in his sandals because it's his policy, which I think is hilarious as well. So, ultimately, there was a lot of entertaining moments, but the overall episode as a whole was a bit on the boring side because of all the exposition. However, because the exposition is important things that you want to know, and because you're introducing a whole new island, a whole new place. Do I wish that they could have sprinkled it in over time and kind of shown us rather than just spend an episode telling us? Yes, but ultimately that's why I decided to give it a 6. It had the entertainment value in some places, but was made boring because of how much exposition there was there, and while the exposition was important in earning back points, I also think they could have probably not had to dump it all on us at once, which is why I took points again, and that is ultimately landing on 6 out of 10. But that brings our list to in first, Ambush, The Bilking, and Wapple the Bilk. Then A Doctorless Island Adventure in the Country Without a Name is this episode in second, and Nami is Sick, Beyond the Snow That Falls on the Ocean is third place. And that brings us to the saga ranking so far. Mostly Objective Ranking has Reverse Mountain Arc in first at 90%, Whiskey Peak Arc second at 82.5%, Little Garden Arc in third at 78.75%, and Kobe and Helmeppo Arc in fourth at 15%. Drum Island Arc has a score of 28 out of 140 so far. Personal ranking side, we have Reverse Mountain Arc also at 90%, Little Garden Arc at 75%, Whiskey Peak Arc at 55%, Kobe and Helmeppo Arc at 25%, and then Drum Island Arc at 18 out of 140 so far. Leading us now to the final segment of the series ranking so far, which is where we'll be ranking each of the sagas against each other. Mostly Objective Ranking has, well, actually both lists have East Blue Saga as first so far because it's the only completed saga. But then we have Arabasta Saga sitting at 25 out of 70 points on the mostly objective ranking, and then at 18 out of 70 points at the personal ranking. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked One Piece Arabasta Saga Drum Island Arc Episode 80, A Doctorless Island, Adventure in the Country Without a Name. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.